Let me introduce myself first and foremost. My name's Cameron Martin. I'm the Vice President of University Relations here at UVU. And we welcome the Sorensen family as well as members of the UVU President's Council and other members of the Sorensen family and community and students. We're always glad to have our students here. We want to recognize in particular Kent, Kim, and Corey, their family members, including many of their grandchildren, who would be great-grandchildren of Wilson Sorensen, but also Dell Sorensen, who is Wilson's brother. We appreciate you all being here. We all give them a round of applause for being here and they're going through the great efforts of being here. We honor you very much. Thank you. This wall, or should I say this building, honors a great person, a man whose legacy is vast, who those of us who had the privilege of knowing him fill our hearts with a lot of fond memories. Fun little gizmos like his quarter pounder, you know, those little toys that he would make. I had that in my office for a long time. His influence runs through our veins as well as the halls of this institution, and we carry his legacy of putting students first through all of what we do as an administration. It is only appropriate that the Student Center bears his name in honor of that focus on student success. What you will see here momentarily is an unveiling of a wall that honors the legacy and the story of Wilson W. Sorensen here as he was at the helm of this institution through many of its maturations over the years. Kelsey is the designer who designed what you will see here momentarily. Kelsey is from Spanish Fork, Utah. She's a graduate of UVU this past April. She has her BFA in graphic arts and design, and so she's a great talent and a member of our University Marketing Communications department. Will you join with me? And I know, trust me, it looks really cool, but give her a round of applause right now. In talking with Kelsey about her design and what inspired her, she noted that Wilson grew up in an era where technology didn't necessarily rule the day, but a lot of paper and manila folders that things get filed in. And so that idea of capturing files of eras, decades, with tabs is what is the common theme of her design, and you'll be able to see that momentarily. So anyway, thank you, Kelsey, for your work on this. It's only appropriate, again, as I've said before, that we honor such a great person, Wilson W. Sorensen, and it gives me great honor to introduce next on the program Kent Sorensen, who will share a few remarks about his father, after which President Holland will give us some comments and we'll have the grand unveiling. Kent, will you please join me?
Thank you, Cameron. We are so honored, and bear with me, I may get a little emotional. This school, this institution, was my father's pride and joy. Everything he did led back to the school. He was involved in the community extensively, church, scouting. His focus, and if you look at the miracle of Utah Valley, I was looking through it again the other day, and all the various educational pursuits that they had, because Dad would go to the Chamber of Commerce, UVU, anywhere he could to find an opportunity to train and educate. And he was very proud of that. And let me just for a minute take you way back. When I was a little boy, I remember vividly going down to East Bay, to the barracks, and it was really exciting for me because little boys are interested in cars. Well, Pete Ashton, I don't know who remembers Pete Ashton. He was the Chevrolet dealer and Art Duckett. They had dealerships, and they would come because it was a big deal when a new model year would come out, and they would store their cars down there just before showing for the new year, and Dad would sneak me in to see the new cars. I remember going with Dad. Again, he had to be very resourceful because they had basically no money. And he would go up to the Army surplus, and I would get to go with him, and he would find equipment and so forth. We never had a new car at our house. We always had a car that had been totaled and then bought by Dad, taken to the auto body and mechanic shops to be fixed. And we got whatever paint was left over they had spare. And so we had pink and white cars. Our old pickup truck and our old Packard. The Packard was a total, had a front end collision, and the engine was sitting in the front seat. But Dad bought it, brought it down for the students to work on, and those were the cars we drove. Another effort when they built the Provo campus, I don't think Dad was paid, but I remember him coming home and his face being totally silver except for his eyes where he had goggles, because he had been there painting the girders for the roof. And his team, that faculty and those people were a team. They were a family. And they were so dedicated to making things work. And then I remember my dad, my grandpa, and I, we laid all the linoleum floor tiles in the north and south wing of the Provo campus. I don't think he was paid for it, but we laid all the tile in all the classrooms, down the halls, and so forth, because Dad was willing to do whatever it took to make this school a success. And I remember as a young kid, it was so exciting for me. I used to take people on tours of the school. And I think I was 12, 13, 14. And so guests would come to the school, and Dad would turn some of them over to me, and I would get to take them on a tour of the school. And he was very proud of that school. Then out here, when he got this, it was exciting. They were still farming it for a while. And Kim and Corey, my two brothers, got to help with the farm there a little bit. And then to see it blossom as it is today, I mean, all my family, I was lost. The old school, I could have told you where everything was. But this one, we were getting lost getting to the parking garage, even though we had maps. So we are so honored with what President Holland has been able to do, and the predecessors or the successors of Dad. They have kept that legacy alive. And I happen to be present. I think I took the picture. This picture when President Holland came up to meet with Dad, and I think he's kept it alive. Dad, as you know, if you read The Miracle and so forth, was all about technical education and applied learning. It wasn't about just reading the books. It was getting out there and doing what you were learning about. And I remember him talking to President Holland and saying, okay, shaking his finger kind of, okay, you need to keep this up. That's what it's all about. And President Holland has done that. I think you call it engaged learning. And that's the key. That's been the key to the success, I think, along with the dedicated faculty and staff. I mean, I could go back and name that original staff. I think I knew every one of them, custodians and all. And the other thing I have to mention, Dad was a great tease. And everybody knew that, and I don't remember which one of the governors, but on April Fools, here's an idea, President, he used to put a bowl out on the reception desk, a bowl of Spanish peanuts, you know, the red-skinned round peanuts. But then he would mix chili tapinis. And if any of you have had a chili tapini, they are very hot. You drink water and it just makes them hotter. And he would put that in a bowl and have it out there on April Fools, and some people had some pretty burned throats, but he was always teasing, always, but I think that's what endeared the staff, and it didn't matter who it was, he was their friend. And as I've followed the school with President Holland, it looks like that is still intact. I've noticed you on top of Tim, President. But we just want to thank you and express our love and appreciation, and this is mainly our family here. And this is so kind of you to invite us down and have this special unveiling.
Thank you, Kent, and Corey and Kim and families, and Uncle Dale here. I mean, talk about the spirit of Wilson Sorensen. I'm looking at him right there. It's an honor to have you here today, to honor your brother, your father, grandfather. I hope the grandkids are watching. Maybe you don't know exactly what's happening, but your grandfather, your great-grandfather, was a very special man who worked very, very hard and did some important things for the community, and he sacrificed a lot, and his children sacrificed a lot. I know a little bit about that. So that's why it's important for us to have your family here today, because this isn't just about Wilson, it's about your whole family and what you did to build up this school and make it what it is. So we're honored to have you here today. 37 years, Wilson Sorensen was here. He was here from the very beginning. When it was the vocational technical school, just a little something produced to teach people out of high school how to do technical jobs, and it's had such a legacy. It has been this miracle in the valley, and I want to say just a word about why we're doing this, because we already have this building. It's named for him. Although I can't resist reporting, you probably saw this too, the article in the Herald not long ago about his legacy, and that Wilson's on record as saying he didn't want the building named after him, but he got outvoted. And I'm so glad that they did, because we need something like this on this campus to remember his legacy. But we've been thinking a lot about our history here lately. We just celebrated our 75th anniversary a year ago, so we've been thinking about the past, and you can't think about the past without thinking about Wilson Sorensen. And as we've been walking through this hallway lately, we've been sensing that as this campus has grown and developed, it's time to kind of spruce things up here a little bit. And so we're doing that. And we're going to bring forward a plan to make this look and feel like the rest of the new campus that we have here. And as we've done so, we thought the place we need to start is with this little area that we have over here where we're honoring Wilson, and it's got this cute bench and a photo, and for years that's been just fine, because the building was here and it had its name and everybody knew who he was. But as time goes on, we got students now here who wouldn't know who he is, and he can't be forgotten. And so both to give a new look to a stable, one of our central buildings, but also to appropriately honor his memory and not forget contributions, we thought something more needed to be done. And so we've done that. Scott Matheson said that he was Mr. Vocational Education, and that certainly is true, and Kent's got the story exactly right. This was a very special, formative moment for me. I wasn't even yet the president, and I had been appointed, but I hadn't assumed office, and I had wanted to see Wilson, and I ended up talking to someone, a mutual friend, who said, well, I can introduce you to him. I know where he is. I visit him occasionally. And I said, I'd love to do it. And I thought, well, I'm so busy, and I was trying to finish up at BYU, and I thought, I'll do it later. I'll get to it in the summer. And I just kept having this feeling, you've got to go see him. And I'm so glad I didn't put it off, because I went to see him, and it was only, a few weeks later that he passed away. About 3 weeks later. And so I went up there, and what a jolt it was for me as I came in. They wheeled Wilson around the corner. He had on that great UVU hat, his UVU shirt, and we had a wonderful exchange. And he pointed that finger at me, and look, let's be honest, it was an old crooked finger. I've never seen a more powerful finger in my life. As that got pushed into my face saying, don't forget the trades. And that was what he said to me, and I felt something, and that was my commitment on the spot, that we wouldn't, and we haven't. So I've said all the time, yes, it's engaged learning. Kent's exactly right. That's part of how we honor his legacy. But we also honor it just in terms of keeping many of the trades. Now, we do have a Mountainland Tech that we partner with, and they do some things that used to be done here. But we still do a lot of things. We've added certificate programs. We've added AAS programs. We still do, within the state system of higher education, which still does 70% of the career and technical training in the state, we do almost 20% of that ourselves. So we are still the workhorses in the state for career and technical education. So it's for that, and it's also for how he went about business. I obviously didn't see him in action, but from everyone that I know who knew him or that's written about him, the phrase that pops out is that there was a gentlemanly persistence about him. He didn't get ruffled, he didn't get angry, at least not that often that I can tell, but he just kept coming back, and people couldn't deny it. He just kept showing up, saying, you gotta help us, we need this, we need that. That's how he got all this land, 240 acres that we sit on. That's how he got buildings, that's how he got funding. He just kept showing up in the nicest possible way and couldn't be denied. And I think it's a wonderful example for us. That's still sort of our motif. We just keep showing up saying, you gotta help us, we gotta get this done. So in that way, his spirit lives on. So for all of those reasons, for this extraordinary family who pitched in, helped laying the tiles themselves, I'm glad you told that story. I've always heard that about Wilson laying it, but to know it was, he was there with his boys doing it. Is that right? Yeah. A multi-generational project. So I'll call my father. I'll get him down here to lay tiles next week. So yeah. He needs something to keep him busy. Anyway. So with all that, just let me express my just truly greatest thanks and appreciation for all of you and for this family and for Wilson. We hope that you'll appreciate this. I think you will. It's visual. It's kind of sort of larger than life like he was. And it's got some detail to it so that we remember some of the specifics about what he accomplished. And not just him. Of course, he gets to stand there, but he represents a whole generation that was committed and colleagues that gave endlessly to make this place what it is. So it's an honor of all of them that we do that. So with that, I'd like to have the boys come up. Uncle Dale, if you're up to it, why don't you come and join us too, and let's do this unveiling. On three. 1, 2, 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, please come. Enjoy and read about the legacy. This will help making sure all of our students know why this building is named after Wilson W. Sorensen and bears his name because of his focus on this institution, engaged learning, and student success. That concludes the formal aspect of our program. Please come look at the wall.